And welcome to All Business Media TV. I'm your host, Rick Delgado, and our guest today is Katherine Myers. She's the owner of the Resiliency Counselor. You can go to her website, resiliencycounselor.com. That's where you'll find her online, or you can give her a call at 937-405-5795. And Katherine, welcome back, and how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you, Rick?
I'm doing well, and thank you again for making your way to our studios and joining us. Now, for people that don't know who you are, give us a little bit of your background and tell everybody a little bit about yourself and now how you've started your company, Resiliency Counselor.
I'm the Assistive Technology Specialist at Wright State University in Dayton, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
As that, I work with students with disabilities, and I work with them on different kinds of software and sometimes hardware that will help make their life a little bit easier when it comes to studying and using a computer.
Right.
Sometimes I'll do a little bit more with environmental controls, or even help with sometimes a wheelchair repair or a mounting system on their wheelchair. And I also have a caseload, and I also run our personal assistance program for students with physical disabilities, where they have a personal assistant who helps them with grooming, bathing, showering, things like that, to get them started on their day and help them get to bed at night. And what I'm doing now, as I'm approaching thinking about retiring.
Thinking about it?
Thinking about retiring.
Are you plotting it?
I'm plotting retiring. I am trying to think about, well, gee, what am I going to do?
Right.
And through my work at Wright State, I found that I really like helping people. And I have decided that what I want to do is to help people. And I really want to help people who are kind of down on their luck, mm-hmm. or struggling with direction and figuring out where they need to be, and figuring out how to deal with maybe hardship, things like that.
Right.
And that's where Resiliency Counselor comes in. I've dealt with some difficulties in my life, maybe a little more than my share, but I figure that since I've survived and done more than survive, I've been able to get through them. I can use what I have learned to help other people.
Right.
And that's where Resiliency Counselor has come in.
Right. And with that, what you're looking to do once you step away from, I guess, Wright State University, is to, take that helping of people that you've been doing and now expand it into helping, even more people.
Absolutely. I've been at Wright State for almost 24 years, mm-hmm. and I've learned a lot through my work at Wright State. I really learned how to work with people. When I got to Wright State, I was incredibly shy, and I'll never forget, it took 6 months before I spoke up at a staff meeting. Oh, wow. I just sat back and watched, and I finally said something, and it wasn't much. But yeah, if it was about technology, I would speak up, but anything else, I would just sit back and kind of watch, and I was like, okay, where do I fit in here?
Right.
And but over the years, I've learned how to navigate an extroverted world. And I've also learned how to really work with people one-on-one. I've also learned how to do presentations and work with groups of people. Mm-hmm. And I've really learned how to maneuver the system and kind of put my own twist on that one-on-one work. And the way I work with people is rather different from anybody else in the department.
Right.
I've gotten encouragement down to a science in how I work with people and,
okay. Now,
and
what do you mean by that?
I'm kind of known in the department as the encourager.
Okay.
I actually go around in the department, check on people on our staff, and just let them know I care.
Right.
And I'm interested in what they're doing and interested in how they are physically doing. And it's our environment that we're working in right now is quite tense and highly stressful, because we're all doing more than the work of one person. Mm-hmm. So it's extremely difficult. And although we are all working together as a very cohesive team, somebody needs to really be going around and checking on people. Our supervisor does that some,
right.
But I try to routinely go around and say, hey, how you doing? And that kind of thing with people. And even with my students, when we work together, I do a lot to try to tell them, hey, how are you doing? And you're doing well with what you're doing,
Right.
and find something that they're doing that I can actually say, hey, you're doing a good job with this. We need to work on this, but with this area, you're doing great.
Right.
We need to improve on other things, but there is something you're doing really great at. We all need to hear things that we're doing well, and we don't hear enough of that.
Well, yeah. I mean, most times we only hear about, people will point things out to us when it's wrong.
That's right.
A lot of times it doesn't come with positive reinforcement.
And a lot of times we'll go for a long period of time without hearing about anything that we've done right.
Right.
So one of the things I try to do is let people know things that they're doing well. And in that way, I can really encourage people. And things that I do at our church, I'm part of a Celebrate Recovery program we have at our church, which is for anybody who has something that they need to work on. People who have problems with addiction or problems with depression, anxiety, worry, anything can come to this program, and I'm a co-leader for it. But I love to encourage people by saying, hey, I really like what you said, or this really had a major impact on me,
Right.
and or hey, you look really great today. Anything that I can say that might help to boost somebody's spirit and have them feel good about themselves.
Right.
I really like to do things like that, because we all need that little bit of encouragement. That can really make a person feel a whole lot different than they did when they came in the door.
Right.
So much of what we hear is negative all the time. And just that little bit of encouragement, that little bit of, hey, you're doing great, or hey, this is really good, can make a big difference in a person's life.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of times, like you said, we don't hear it. We don't hear it enough. And those little things can make a big difference in terms of, continuing on that path, right? Because you might be on your way to something great, but maybe you don't think so, and nobody seems to notice, and maybe you're getting passed over at work for a position, or maybe you find yourself falling out of relationships because it just doesn't work out, and you think, well, maybe I should just be alone. That's the type of person, because you're not a counselor, you're not a therapist in that
No.
respect, right?
No,
But you're not
I'm
a life
not.
coach either.
No, I'm not. A life coach actually is working with somebody who's well established in their work, and they want to maybe take it a different direction,
Right.
or they really want to boost themselves. A counselor or therapist is working with somebody who's having some major mental health issues, some really severe depression, really severe psychological diagnosis, that kind of thing. I don't want to work with someone who has really tremendous mental health problems.
Right.
But I also don't want to work with a really well-established professional. I want to work more with the people who are heading towards a profession, but maybe they've had some really severe struggles in their lives. Or maybe they've really been beat up and they're not sure they can succeed at what they want to do. They really need to add some more direction to what they want.
Right.
They need a little bit of help getting boosted up to be able to accomplish what they want to do. They need some encouragement. They need to understand that, yes, they can achieve what they want to do. They've been beat up. They have had a lot of hardship in their life. Something is really prohibiting them or having them feel like they're not going to be able to accomplish their dreams.
Right.
And those are the kinds of people that I want to work with. They can be fresh-headed out of college. They can be somebody who's a little bit older. They can be in their 50s or 60s. It doesn't matter the age, but they could be wanting to make a major change in their life, but they're not sure that they can do that
Right.
because of some circumstances that have been going on in their life to have them feel like they're not going to be able to do it.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of those things that I think you'd agree that when it comes to making a change, that's a very difficult. You can say it all you want, but until you start taking those steps, and you start feeling that it's not a comfortable thing, right, Catherine? To kind of
change
make those
is
changes.
scary.
Yeah, change is scary. But everybody says, especially January 1st. Oh, this is going to be the year. I'm going to take it on. I'm going to change. And then, what happens in a couple weeks? They're back to their old routines again. Why? Because
Right.
it's comfortable. It's too hard to change.
It is. It's very difficult to change, and it's because change is unknown, okay, but change is inevitable.
Right.
That's one thing that you can be sure of, is that life is going to change. And the problem with life is not fair. You know, there's so many things about life that hits us that is not fair, but it's going to happen anyway.
Right.
Life happens, change happens, and those are two things that are definitely going to go on, and we can't control them.
Yeah.
They're going to go on whether we want them to or not. Maybe you're someone who has just gotten a divorce and you're kind of struggling with, what direction do I need to go? How am I going to deal with just moving forward in my life? And, you know, maybe you've got a couple kids and you're trying to figure out, how are we going to deal with, you know, single parenting now,
right,
and all of that. Those are also people that I want to be able to help and encourage, and have them see that, okay, you can get through this, and there are ways that I can point you in different directions, and help you understand that, yes, you can be resilient with this,
right,
and you're not by yourself. You don't have to be by yourself, and that's one of the things people don't understand either. You don't have to do this alone, and that's where I can come in, is
right,
to be that person that keeps you from being by yourself through this. And a lot of people think, oh, I don't have anybody else. There isn't anyone else in my life I can
right,
trust. And I'll help build that trust relationship and help them feel like, okay, I'm not by myself. I can have someone who I can at least talk to.
Right. Now, when you talk about it like that, so are there things that when you're working with someone that you can actually help them build up their resiliency, or at least help maybe point it out to them, like, look, here's an example of when you were able to bounce back, kind of thing? So don't think that this is beyond you, you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And some things are looking at helping a person look at their past and look at, okay, how did you get through this situation?
Right.
And show them how they did bounce back. But there are also other ways of looking at, pointing them at their resources that they have available to them in their community to help them with certain situations that they're trying to cope with, and they're like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
And I can look at, okay, we've got an internet available to us. Let me get on it. You tell me exactly where your community is,
Right.
and I'll help you search it, because you're not feeling like you can, but I can. Okay? And I know the kinds of resources you're looking for because I've been there.
Right.
Okay? And I know the kinds of resources we have out there in my community, so I should be able to match those up with your community.
Right.
And be able to help them do those kinds of searches that might help ease some of what they're having to look for. Sometimes it's a matter of helping them look at, okay, I have community resources. There's somebody in the community that can help me with my kids. Mm-hmm. There's somebody in the community that can help me with medical stuff. Yes, there is. Okay? There's somebody in the community that I can go to about this. Oh, yes, there is. We just have to find them, and I'll help you find them for you.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
and a lot of times we just, you know, sometimes you just end up flailing around because you don't know, you know, who to ask, what questions to ask. Maybe you need that person to bounce something off of.
Absolutely, and I want to be that person for some of my clients.
Right.
Is that person you can bounce things off and say, okay, I was thinking about this. Does it make sense? Okay, yes it does, but
Right.
let's maybe ease into that situation and try something else a little different first, because I think you're moving a little too fast. Or, okay, yeah, that would be great, and in addition to that, let's try this.
Right.
Sometimes it's a matter of feeling needed. And in order to feel needed, you have to help someone else. So we look at community resources where you can volunteer,
Right.
and get out of your own comfort zone because you're a little too comfortable where you are, but you're frustrated because you know you don't feel needed, and you know that there are things you could do, but you're afraid to.
Right.
So we try to look for things, okay, let's look in your community and find out where we can match you up with your strengths, things that you know and you can do, so that you can start feeling needed again.
Right.
Because maybe all the kids are grown, they've moved out, and we have an empty nest here, and you
Right.
don't feel needed anymore. And that can be causing a major problem.
Yeah.
So let's start looking at how can we feel needed again.
Right. Now, in terms of doing something like that with someone, is it a matter of, do you need to be in front of them, you know, like as close as I am to you, or does technology make it possible for you to work with anybody anywhere?
Oh, technology is great now. I can work with anybody anywhere. They don't have to be in the same room with me. They
Right.
can be on the other side of the country if we have to.
Right.
Skype is great, so is the phone. Skype is wonderful because then you can be face to face, just computer to computer.
Right.
And that makes it really nice. And if that's not available, there's always a phone. You can only, I'm only a phone call away.
Right.
That old saying still holds. And, it's nice to be able to see faces, but not everyone has that technology, so phone calls work.
Right.
So I don't have to be in the same room, don't have to be in the same part of the country, which that's the great part about technology. So that really works.
Right.
And one of the things I'm going to start looking at is coming up with topics for people and doing webinars so that people can join in at a distance. And we can be talking about a specific topic. And one would be empty nest syndrome,
Right.
okay? And dealing with those facts that you don't have any children at home anymore. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Okay? How do you feel about that? And be able to have it open to where we can even have some questions posted and be able to answer those questions at the same time.
Right.
And do some things like that to be able to work with people on that too. And again, you don't have to be even in the same city with me to do something like that. We can do it all online.
Yeah, or the same state, or the same time zone, or
Right.
the same country.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the technology these days makes the world a little bit smaller.
It sure does. And then there's also the option of doing public speaking and actually going to someplace else. I don't have to stay in Dayton, Ohio.
Right.
If you've got a group of people that you want me to come and talk to, I can do that as well.
Right.
And it's all about helping people to feel like they're worthy and really understand how worthy they are. People get to feeling so down in the dumps anymore. We have such negativity in our society, and people get beat up. Bosses just want more and more and more out of their workers without encouraging them and telling them what a great job they do. And then you go home and there's tension in the household usually too, because you've got kids that are demanding, you don't
Right.
have enough time together as a family, and we do nothing but feel like we're beating our head up against a brick wall sometimes. And it's more about, okay, let's take a step back. Let's have you start realizing how great you are.
Right.
And let's have you start realizing what things you do that are so great, and focus on those and not those things that have you feel like you're hitting your head on the brick wall. And then what can we do to start affecting some change in your life?
Right. Now, speaking about affecting change in someone's life, I know from the one time that we spoke a while back that you had someone actually move in with you, right?
I did. It's been a year and a half now.
Okay.
And he happens to be the son of my closest friend.
Right.
And he was very down on his luck. He was really struggling financially, it still is, did not have a place to live. He was staying with his mother off and on, and she lives in a retirement apartment.
Oh, okay.
Which it's income-based.
Yeah.
And very limited as to being able to have someone stay with her.
Right.
And they could even dictate how long someone could stay with her.
Right.
And he was really on the edge, pushing the edge of that. And she shared that with me, and I looked at her and I said, well, I have a spare bedroom for the first time in my life. He can come and occupy that. And she just looked at me and was very indignant. She said, that's not why I told you. And I said, I know that, but I'm serious. For the first time in my life, I have a spare bedroom.
Right.
He can come and occupy that for as long as he needs. So she had me come over and talk to him about it, and he was a little hesitant. And afterwards he told me, he said, I don't know why I hesitated like I did. And so he came and moved in. He has 5 children.
Oh, wow.
He's divorced, but he only has his kids every other weekend.
Right.
During the summer, he has them every other week, which I didn't know at the time, which is a little different. But, and he eased me into the kids.
Right.
We started out having them just on Saturdays, and then we eased into the actual weekend, and we only would have 2 and then 3. Now it's usually 5, or actually all 4 boys. His oldest is a girl.
Right.
And a lot of times she has to work, so she doesn't actually spend the night. But, and she's the easiest one. The 4 boys, that's another story. But he's great, and it's like having another son.
Right.
But I've gotten to, when it's just the 2 of us at home, I've gotten to mentor him, and we've done a lot of work together in encouraging him and talking to him about what he's going to do, because he was a welder by trade.
Right.
And then he messed up his knees. And standing there welding on concrete was really killing him. So he couldn't go back to the welding.
Right.
And he was real frustrated with what he was going to do. He really wanted to better his life, and he was going from one job to another to another. And we talked about going back to school, and I told him I would help him with that if he decided he wanted to do that. And he's now a Wright State student. He's majoring in music education.
Oh, wow.
He's gotten through his first semester with, I think it's a 3.67 or a 7.8, I'm not sure which.
Okay.
But he did incredibly well his first semester with a lot of hard work. And he's working part-time because he has child support to pay. And I told him that was the one thing he had to do, was find a job where he could pay his child support. So I told him, I said, I'm not paying your child support. But the kids are good. They're a challenge for me. I'm not used to being around non-disabled kids. I'm used to kids with disabilities, and that's what I was very used to. But they've been a challenge, but something really good.
Right. Now, what about the gentleman himself? Now he's gotten through that first semester.
He's gotten through the first semester.
And has he decided, okay, you know what? Is it music?
It's music education.
Music education. Is he looking to maybe transition into being a music teacher? Or?
That's what he wants to do.
Okay.
He's a percussionist, and that's what he's majoring in is percussion, and he wants to teach band. He could also teach choir as well in a high school, is what he's wanting to. That's the age group he really wants to work with.
Right.
He loves it. And he's got great faculty in our music department, and he's doing quite well with them. He's been involved in a couple of concerts. He just got back from our Ohio Music Education Association conference this past weekend, where the percussion ensemble did a concert. And he was a part of that and did a great job with it. And he's really growing since he's been in school. Before that, he was kind of a little bit stagnant because he wasn't sure of his direction.
Right.
But since he made his decision to go into it, it's really made a big change for him. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of practice, a lot of studying, and he works too.
Right.
He works at least 20 hours a week. And he has the kids every other weekend.
And then he's got you.
And he has me. And we work together on that. A lot of times I'll pick them up on Friday night for him because of him working.
Right.
And then we'll, and sometimes if he has to practice on Saturday, if he has to go over to the university for a special practice, sometimes I'll watch 1 or 2 of them, or he'll take them with him. A lot of times he'll do that.
Right.
The older ones can just walk around the campus and do what they want to do, and the younger 2 will stay with him. One of them has aspirations to be a percussionist also.
Oh, wow.
So he'll just sit there and watch in awe of everything that they're doing, and the younger one will just do videos on a tablet with his headset on, and he's ecstatic, so he does really well. So it's been a great journey with him, and will continue to be a journey because we talk quite a bit, either after work when he gets home late, or on a weekend when he doesn't have the kids. We talk about the future.
Right.
We talk about how school is going, and it's been interesting. Over Christmas, before Christmas, he came home one day and he said, "How would you feel if we had somebody stay with us over Christmas?" And I said, "Okay. Tell me about it." And there was a girl in the percussion group who was really struggling with her family and was not going to go home except for Christmas Day and Christmas Eve.
Right.
She had really come to terms with some problems she was having with her parents, and finally stood up to them. There had been an abusive relationship there. And I said, "Okay, that's fine. Bring her home." not a problem.
Right.
And she and I talked after she came in, and I told her, I said, my goal here is for you to feel like this is your home and that you can be here anytime you want to.
Right.
And she stayed the week before Christmas, and then she did go home, but she really struggled with it.
Right.
And he's still maintaining his relationship with her. I have seen her once or twice at church. And she's a sweet gal. She really is, with a boatload of trouble. But their percussion instructor told me, he said, you've done such a great job with him. I trust you with her.
Right. Well, that's great.
And I felt highly complimented by that, that he felt like she would be safe in her home. And that's what I told her. I said, understand this. This is safe space for you, no
Right.
matter when. Anytime you want to come, you're welcome. And he's reminded her of that too, that she can come anytime on the weekend. And she's like, oh yeah, I can do that. And so I have a feeling she'll be back.
Right.
Just to have some stress relief and not have to stay on campus all the time. Because she lives in campus housing. And she knows that she can come back anytime.
Well, that's great to know.
She
kind of have that to kind of fall back on, because a lot of people, when they have a challenge like that, they don't know where to turn, and then they end up going back, and they never figure it out.
And when she left to go to her parents after Christmas again, she wrote me the nicest note and thanked me for opening up my home, and said that she will remember that she can come back anytime.
Right.
So that was really cool to be able to do that, and for him to feel like he could, and for their instructor to feel like he could trust me to allow her to come in, and that she could be open with me.
Right. Now, in terms of the gentleman we're still speaking of,
Yeah.
as he's marching towards, now his new direction, his new career that he wants to, transition into in music, how is that, was that kind of a battle? Because here he is, a welder, but he's had this love of music all his life, right?
Yes, he has.
But he just never really acknowledged it, or people didn't encourage it.
Well, he actually had planned to do this out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
But there were problems with his graduation from high school. There was a situation that happened his senior year that did not allow him to graduate.
Ah.
And he finally went back at a time when he and his ex-wife were living in Tennessee, that he finally got his GED. And he shared with me at one point that if he had gone to college right out of high school, he's not sure he would have been successful.
Right.
Because he was so immature. And that it probably took everything that he's gone through to where he landed in my home for him to be ready to go back.
So a lot of times it's the experiences that we're going through that maybe aren't the best things in the world that end up giving us that platform or that foundation to kind of stand up on and be like, all right, now I'm prepared, so to speak.
Absolutely. I remember it does prepare us for what we're headed for.
Right.
And sometimes if things had worked out the way we wanted it to, it would not have worked out the way we wanted it to, okay? Because we don't have the maturity level that we want, we end up with the wrong crowd. For whatever reason, it doesn't go the way we really had dreamt it would.
Right.
And those life circumstances that happen actually prepare us for what that dream was, and get us ready for it at the right time.
Right. But a lot of times we don't see that.
No, we don't.
Because we get all caught up like, oh, it wasn't supposed to be this way. I remember, Katherine, when I was young, man, I thought, okay, by this age I'm going to do this, by this age I'm going to get engaged, by this age I'll be married. I kind of, in my head, I was like, okay, I put it down to ages. Yeah. Not realizing you can't really,
You can't
it's
do
not
that.
like in some countries where you can force people to marry. That's not the case here.
No.
So it was one of those things where after a while I was kind of looking around like, wait, I passed all those numbers, those years, and I hadn't achieved what I had wanted to, or where I thought I should be. And it was almost depressing, but also in another way it was like, yeah, but now I'm getting to do this. it was like I was able to, at least for me, I was able to say, you know what, okay, maybe I missed the mark on these things, but man, I'm having fun over here, and this seems to be going good, so I think I'm on the right path. I'm not sure, but I hope I'm on the right path, because I really screwed up trying to get, do everything by the book, so to speak.
Well, and what we don't realize, when that right path that we think is right was probably not right in the first place, because those life circumstances that hit, and maybe we made some poor decisions along the way, okay, that changed things.
All right,
okay?
it's fine. I made some poor decisions, Katherine. I get it.
I said we, okay? Sometimes we make poor decisions along the way that impact our ability to be successful for those initial dreams,
Right.
okay? But dreams change, okay? And sometimes, though, our lifelong dream that we initially have here gets fulfilled here in a better way,
Right.
okay? Because all that went on in between was preparation for here. And we're much more mature to be able to handle it here than we were here. And if we tried to do it here, we would have failed miserably,
Right.
okay? If we'd really tried, if we're honest, and we really tried to do it here, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, it wouldn't have worked out the
No,
right way.
it would not have worked out the right way, the way that we really wanted it to. It would never have worked. So all this stuff that went on in between was really preparation for here.
Right.
But we don't see it at the time. We really don't. We have no understanding of it at the time. But then once we get here and things are starting to work out, we suddenly go, oh, that wouldn't have worked if I had done it here.
Right.
We start to see everything that went on between and the benefit of it, even though we didn't see benefit before. And we realize that it would not have worked. And we realize the growth that we've gone through in between was preparation
Right.
for here.
Yeah, a lot of times we will never see that, because we're too busy getting caught up in things.
And that's what we do. We
Yeah.
get so caught up in everything else that's going on, we never see the forest for the trees.
Right.
We don't. And we stay so caught up in it that we don't look and we don't stop and go, oh my goodness, what have I been doing?
Right. Yeah, until that one day you wake up and go, oh my goodness, what the heck have I been doing?
Yeah.
And it's like everything that could have gone wrong actually went wrong, but you didn't even stop to bother to see if it was what you wanted to be doing in the first place.
And sometimes it's not even everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. Sometimes we're just caught up in, and we feel like we're walking on a treadmill, and we're not getting anywhere.
Right.
Okay, sometimes that's what's happening, is we're on this treadmill, we're not getting anywhere, nothing's changing, and we feel stuck, okay? And we look at our life and we're like, what am I doing?
Right.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything. I'm not depressed, but I'm not growing. I'm not doing anything. In this book that I mentioned in another previous show, this book that I'm reading, this one lady did that. She just suddenly realized this one day, she felt like she was walking on a treadmill. And she then suddenly devoted her life, she stopped right there. And she said, okay, I'm changing this. Spent the next 2 years doing all kinds of research
Right.
on happiness, because she realized she wasn't happy, on happiness and trying to find joy and everything, and looked at all kinds of philosophers and everything and what brought happiness and everything. I'm not sure she totally found it, but she wrote a book on it.
Okay.
That was a bestseller. That actually turned into a bestseller, so I
Right.
guess she got happy from that.
Well, yeah.
But
Who wouldn't be?
Yeah, who wouldn't be? That really changed her life, because she did figure out for her what happiness became.
Right.
But she stopped. And then that's the thing. She all of a sudden stopped and said, hold it. I need to make some changes here. Most of us don't do that. We just keep staying on that treadmill and just keep on going and don't recognize that, oh, wait a minute, hold it. I need to stop, because I'm not getting anywhere and I'm miserable.
Right.
I'm not depressed. I'm just flat out miserable.
Yeah, but a lot of times they won't even do that because they're afraid.
They're
If
afraid
I
of
stop
change.
now, yes, if I stop now and try and make that change, it might not work. So
It
why
might
would
not
I
work.
mess up? At least I know this works. Even though it's terrible, I'm not really enjoying myself. I'm not really having a great time, and this is not where I saw myself. I don't want to mess it up.
And it's not just, it might not work, but I might fail.
Right.
And we don't want to fail.
No, definitely not. Nobody wants to fail. And especially, you know, when it comes down to an important part of your life, you know, and maybe things are on the line and you know, the pressure's on. You don't want to fail. You just want everything to make sure everything stays steady. If you're ready to make that change, though, there's the lady. She can help you do it. Her name is Katherine Myers. She is the owner at the Resiliency Counselor. You can find out more about her, what she does, how she can help you. Go to the website, resilienccounselor.com, or you can call her directly at 937-405-5795. Now, her own story is built on a lot of resiliency because Katherine's been through a whole lot of stuff. And again, you know, if people have seen or heard some of our past interviews, they know your backstory, where you know you dealt with, you know, your son, you know, going through what he's gone through, being born normal, everything fine, what you expect from a little kid, to all of a sudden now he's you know, he lost basically all his facilities, right? But he's still kicking. He's still alive. He's defying the experts.
Oh, he defied them when he passed 2.
Right.
Because he wasn't expected to live to see 2,
Right.
and he lost all of his gross and fine motor control and his speech, but he did not lose his brain.
No, and he didn't lose his will.
No, he did not.
Or his resiliency.
No.
He must have gotten that from you.
I don't know who got it from who. He got it from me or I got it from him.
Right. Because then you went through your own personal,
Yes.
you know, health issue,
Yes.
where you were basically out of commission for 8 years, confined to a wheelchair, couldn't get back to it, but you fought back. Next step into a career that, you know, you were in school, where it's like, okay, I'm in school, but what am I going to do? And you basically forged the path where now you've helped create, you know, you really put your, I guess, your name on that department where you work at Wright State University, where people, you know, they rely on you. And when you decide you're going to say, okay, this is it, this is when I step away, they're going to be struggling. They're going to be like, what do we do now? We're supposed to, usually Katherine takes care of all this. But I guess I guess that's going to be part of their resiliency, how they're going to make it work without you.
Well, and they will. We've been, while we're working as a team, one of the things that I've really made sure they understand, I don't work in a vacuum.
Right.
And my knowledge is to be shared. And I've been encouraged, our younger ones in the department, please ask me questions, and they've been doing a good job of that. We've all gotten really good at teamwork, and as part of that, we all don't hesitate to go to each other now and ask each other questions and say, I've got this situation, can you tell me how to handle it? I go to them about some of the students with different disabilities that I'm not used to working with, and they don't hesitate to come to me. So by that sharing of knowledge, I'm not quite so worried about what they're going to do when I leave, except who's going to handle the position that I have,
Right.
and will they be able to replace me? That's what I'm concerned about. I'm just hoping the university will be able to, in a position to do that when I do leave. But they'll survive. I know they will, because they're all survivors. The department will not, I hope, will not fall apart without me.
Right.
But you know, they are resilient. It's a department that does that, because the one thing that we're all focused on is our true customer, and that's our students.
Right.
We all want to see them succeed. We all want to see them be able to leave the university and get jobs and be successful. That's what motivates us, is what's best for our students.
Right.
And that's what has motivated me while I've been at Wright State, and now what's motivating me is also not just what's best for my students, but how can I best help people?
Right.
How can I help them institute change in their lives, and how can I help them see that they can be resilient too?
Now, can you actually teach someone to be resilient? or can you at least give them some guidance?
It's guidance.
Is it
I think
guidance?
the person has to find it within themselves,
Right.
to actually be able to use the tools. But there are ways to do that, to find in your inner self how to do this.
Right.
There are definitely ways. For me, it's my faith, and it's the tools that were instilled in me from my childhood by my parents,
Right.
and through my own faith, and what God has taught me, and what He has set me up for, and all the things that He has taken me through that has given me the ability to do this. But it's also showing other people how they have, within their own situations, been resilient already,
Right.
without them realizing it. And then being able to take those tools that they already know how to use and use them to get them through other things.
Right.
And helping them to understand those things and how they can draw on their inner core to be able to get through things, because we all have the ability. That I'm convinced of. There isn't anyone who doesn't have the ability to do it.
Well, yeah.
But we have to be convinced sometimes that we do. A lot of times we don't think we do. We've been beat up so much.
Right.
That we have to understand, oh no, it's there. We just have to peel apart the onion, take apart the layers, and we will get there.
Right.
Life is like an onion. And as we take apart those problems, it's like peeling apart the layers of that onion. And we take apart those problems, and we get down to the core, and we find that that person is as resilient as anyone else can be.
Right.
We all have that ability.
Now, do you think that sometimes, especially with the younger people coming up these days, let's face it, as a parent, you probably, you wanted to make things as great for your kid as you could. You want to protect them as much as possible, as a parent wants to protect their young, right? Do you think in today's society that could be the challenge, why people don't feel like, they feel like, oh, everything is against me kind of thing, because maybe this is the first time they're actually running into something negative. Maybe they're not getting that pat on the back like, hey, just for showing up today, you get a trophy kind of thing, you know what I mean? Where they've been so coddled and, protected from anything negative, that now when something negative does pop up, maybe it's going to college for the first time and failing that class. They don't know how to deal with it.
It's extremely hard for young people. Our young people, a good portion of this generation, parents have done a lot for them. They're not a resilient group of young people.
Right.
They have more anxiety and depression than I think any other generation has had. Statistics actually show that. And it's increasing all the time. The anxiety level is incredibly high. I've been working with a student who actually started shutting down last spring when he failed a class for the very first time in his life.
Right, yeah, I remember the story you told me.
And he didn't know what to do with it. And that's not unusual. When students, we have it all the time, when they're faced with something they don't know what to do with, which is frequent, they come to us and they're like, I don't know what to do with this, and it's something that's not that hard.
Right.
Okay? They absolutely have no coping skills. We have students who need an emotional support animal because they don't know how to cope. And they need something to cuddle in their apartment. And it's not a stuffed animal, it's for real.
Right.
For me, it has boggled my mind the fact that we have this generation that absolutely does not know how to cope. And it's, in a lot of respects, we've created it ourselves because they've been coddled so much by their parents.
Right.
Those parents who have really forced their children to do things and forced them to be involved in activities and not overly forced them to, but had them coping with things and dealing with things, have done a good job.
Right.
But a lot of us want to protect our children.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the natural instinct.
We want them to have it easier than we had it.
Right.
That's the natural instinct of being a parent. But we've gone overboard with it to the point where these kids don't know what to do.
Right.
And they do have a really hard time when they're faced with that first time of failing. The first time they get yelled at by a boss. The first time they make a failing grade. The first time they realize they have to study for a class instead of having it easy in a class. And they don't know how to study.
Yeah.
We have this group that really doesn't know what to do.
And it's really scary because we have this group who they're going to be taking care of us in our old age, and they don't know what to do with life. Okay, and they're coming out of college and they're headed for careers, and I'm kind of like, okay, I'm going to be dependent on you people.
Yeah.
You need help. You need encouragement,
Right.
and you really need to understand that life doesn't have to eat you alive.
Right.
Life can be good to you, and you're going to have the school of hard knocks anyway. It's going to hit you, and you need to know how to deal with it.
Yeah, without crying,
Without
blubbering in a
crying,
corner.
exactly. You need to know how to do that, and we need to figure out how to help you do that.
Right.
And it's a combination of factors. It can be a combination of some good counseling and some good encouragement too. It can be both of those factors. It might not be just encouragement. It might not be just therapy. It might be both. It might be just encouragement that they need, but they really need to learn some good coping skills because they are a generation that is going to have some problems.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that could probably help, as long as they do it the correct way, would be say in sports. With kids in sports, because you know what, there has to be a winner and a loser.
That's
there
right.
There can't be two winners. Everybody doesn't get a medal. It's as simple as that. Watch the Olympics. There's a reason there's a gold medal. It's for one person.
Right. Absolutely. And really those who have been involved in sports, I know our student athletes at Wright State usually do quite well, and they're actually our student athletes have solid GPAs. Our retention rate on them is great, and we don't see them having that major anxiety issue and that depression issue very often, because they've been involved in sports most of their lives.
Yeah.
They understand there's a winner, there's a loser. Not everybody can win.
Right.
Not everybody can succeed. Not everybody can do incredibly well. They understand that. So they have a better shot at it by participating in things like that. People who participate in any kind of activity like that, sports, games of any kind, any kind of team building things, even leadership activities where they don't always win.
Right.
Anything that helps teach that kind of thing are good, because kids need to experience it early on, that there are winners and there are losers. These things with children now, when they're playing as little guys and they don't keep score because they don't want them to know that they've lost, to me it's for the birds. Kids need to understand there is a winner and there is a loser.
Right.
They really do.
And it's funny too, because I know in certain instances, the kids know.
They do.
If our team is doing well or it's not. They don't have to see the scoreboard. They know they're getting their butts kicked.
You're not fooling anybody by not
anybody.
keeping a score.
Right.
The kids do know.
Exactly.
And by not telling them, you think you're fooling them, they actually do know, but they're not getting the impact of anybody saying, hey, you lost the game.
Right.
But it's okay. There's nothing wrong with losing. And there isn't anything wrong with losing.
Yeah.
It's okay to fail, to not do well at something. There's nothing wrong with that. We all do it. We all lose at something.
Yeah.
We can't all be good at everything. And that's what kids have to learn. We cannot all do everything well. And that's where we sometimes have problems.
Right.
Is where we think, and our parents want us to think, that we do well at everything that we touch.
Oh my God, my kid is great at everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's one of the biggest mistakes you can make with children.
Because once they get out into the real world, into the workforce, guess what? The boss is not going to say, hey, you're great just for showing up today. You get to, here's a lollipop. It's not going to, that doesn't work.
Well, they get into college, they find out, oh my gosh, I don't understand this subject at all.
Right.
And that's because somebody has been sugarcoating it to them, or leading them by the hand through it. And it's like, oh my word, I didn't know, I didn't understand this.
Right.
Well, ask questions. Well, I've never had to before. I don't know how to. And that's a real rude awakening for somebody when they've never had to before. They need to learn that as kids.
Yeah. Sometimes failure can be the difference between winning and losing.
It sure can. It sure can.
Because it does. It helps you build up that for lack of a better term, resiliency.
Absolutely.
How do you bounce back from it? Okay, you lost this game, or you didn't perform well at this particular, competition that you were involved in school. How can you get better next time?
Exactly.
Those questions need to be. I do it all the time with, I don't know if I mentioned it last time we spoke, but I coach, youth basketball.
Uh-huh.
And, there are some very upset kids at the end of the game when we lose. And they complain about this and that. It's like, look, you know what? Think about how you can do better next time. We got to play this team again. Think about, okay, how do we take care of that kid so he doesn't score as much as he did last time? Or how can we, as a team, take care of the ball better so we don't turn it over and make the mistakes that lets the other team win and score? It's one of those things where, like you said, it gets your head thinking. It's like, okay, how can I deal with this? Mm-hmm. Because that's sorely lacking, unfortunately.
Oh, it is. And I'm working with one student this semester who made poor choices last semester and did more partying than studying. Okay.
And it's college,
It's college. It is. We do that.
Of course.
So this semester we're working on what are we doing differently than last semester to be successful. And some of it is study skills, some of it is who he's running around with, but most of it is, okay, are we asking for help when you need it?
Right.
Okay, using your resources. And he's doing pretty good with it, but each week we find something different, and this week it was really interesting. I looked at him and he said, I almost missed an assignment. And I said, what do you mean almost? He said, well, I had forgotten about it, I'd done half of it, and then I didn't realize it was due, so I went into class today. And my instructor let me finish it in class and turn it in, and he didn't penalize me for the fact that it was a little late.
Right.
And I said, that was a gift. Now, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
And he said, well, it was really interesting because the discussion you and I are having right now, and I said, yeah, we had it in class too, about how do we keep track of our assignments. And I said, okay, good. What are you going to do differently? He said, I'm going to get a planner. He said, and I said, are you going to do it on a paper planner, on your phone, or what? He said, I'm going to figure that out today. And I said, good, that's your assignment for me for next week, is you're going to have it figured out and be using it for next week and show it to me.
Right.
And he has. Each week we take on something new that he has to change. And it was really interesting how the timing on this one had come. And we talked about it at the beginning of the semester, I don't need one.
Right.
Okay. Well, I figured out, and I said, you almost lost those points. I know. And I said, okay, we don't want to lose them again. No, I'm going to fix that problem today.
Right.
And I said, okay.
Yeah.
So, he figured out he didn't want to lose any more precious points in class, and he had to fix it. And I wasn't the only one telling him. His instructor did too.
Right.
But his instructor also told the whole class the same thing. And all. And I think it was because he almost failed at that assignment.
Right.
Because he forgot. So his instructor used that. I used it with him too. Mm-hmm. And he's like, okay, I've got it now. I understand. But that failure really had an impact when this is his semester to get all the good habits in,
right,
so that we know he can be successful.
Well, and that's another aspect I think that you offer people, is that, the instructor was on the one side, but here you are on the other side giving that support. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes, again, you get caught in the fog. He was busy with classes, doing this and that. All of a sudden, It's like he walks in and like, oh my goodness, I forgot this.
Yeah.
Having that plan, now he knows, okay, moving forward, I think it's best if I set up a plan. Even though I said at the beginning of the semester, I don't need that. Now you're like, maybe I should consider that. And it gives you another option in dealing with, an issue, a problem. How do you overcome that problem?
That's exactly right. And that carries over to Resiliency Counselor.
Right.
It's a matter of breaking down the problem. What is the problem? Okay, what do we do about it? What do we need to change?
Right.
And how do we change it? What's the easy solution? Okay, and maybe there's not an easy solution to it, but let's break it down.
Right.
Okay, and that's something that, because of working with students, I've learned how to break down a problem. Okay, things usually are not big problems. They're a bunch of little problems put together. So we break down the problem and come up with solutions for each little piece. And by the time we break down the whole thing and we have a little solution for each one, it's not so big anymore.
Yeah. Because all those little things are like, well, I can do that one. Oh,
Yeah.
and I can do that one.
Exactly.
And you know, once
Yeah.
you're done doing all those little ones, it's the big one.
It's all of a sudden you realize, oh, gee, that's not so big anymore.
Right.
It's nowhere near as big as I thought it was.
Yeah, and sometimes it's our own pride and our own head that gets in the way.
Exactly. Exactly. You need somebody who can separate themselves from it or is not involved in it to help you sort through it, break it down, and help you piece through it and go, oh, now I got it.
Right.
It's really not as big as I thought it was.
Yeah. And like you said, on a few occasions, Katherine, you're basically seeing the forest, you know, between the trees.
That's right.
You know, so
Yeah.
again, thank you so much for joining us. Our guest, of course, Katherine Myers. She is the Resiliency Counselor. You can find her online. Go to her website, resiliencycounselor.com. That's resiliencycounselor.com. You can also give her a call, 937-405-5795. Talk to her. She does a free consultation.
Yes.
Kind of see if it's a good fit, and then find out what's going to work best for you in terms of what she can do for you. So reach out to her. Katherine Myers is her name, resiliencycounselor.com or 937-405-5795. And as always, Katherine, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome.